What is up, guys? This is Ordinary Average Guy here, and today I'm going to be checking out the Blade HQ Dapper. Jesper Voxnaes designed Dapper, released by Blade HQ. It's the first entry into the EDC world, which is kind of cool. Not a lot of knife retailers out there have their own line, so it's cool to see that Blade HQ is dipping their toe in the water, and let's check out their first entry, shall we? Now, I just want to start by saying I hope everybody's safe, everybody's healthy, and I just want to thank you very much for coming and spending a little bit of your day with me. Now, I know last week I said I was going to be doing a giveaway. I was actually waiting. I have a lot of really cool, a lot of cool members of the community have very generously donated to my giveaway over on my Instagram account. So I'm going to flash my Instagram right here. Okay, go over and follow me. I did change. I was Ordinary Average Guy Knives. Now I'm Ordinary Average Guy EDC. So just head over there, and I'll give you all the instructions. It'll probably be tomorrow or the next day on how to win that awesome giveaway. And I'm telling you guys, I have got a ton of stuff. A ton of people donated very generously, and it's going to be an awesome giveaway. All right, so let's start with the size of this puppy. It is a smaller knife, guys. This is not a huge knife. It is about a little under 2 3/4 inch knife. Blade, with about 2.5 inches of cutting surface there. Although with this belly, you are getting quite a bit more. And then you got about a 6 1/4 inches of total length. Let me just give you a sort of a comparison here next to some other knives. This is a Benchmade bug out. So as you can see, it is quite a bit smaller than the bug out. It is a smaller knife. Here it is next to another Jesper design. This is the Biblio by Giant Mouse. So as you can see, it's a smaller knife. Was my point. Here's one next to a smaller knife. This is a Inkosi with the Insigno blade by Chris Reeves Knives, and this is the small Inkosi. So as you can see, it's quite a bit smaller than that too. I guess my point is it's a smaller knife. This puppy weighs in at... Oh, come on. I should have this thing on for you guys. I'm slipping. This thing comes in at 2.4 ounces. So nice little lightweight design. So for people, I like smaller knives for my EDC. If I'm out camping or something, it's a different story. But if I'm just, around the city, I do prefer smaller knives like this. So really cool. So let's start off with the materials. We've got an M390 blade here. Now, what kind of blade is this, would you say? They say it's a clip point, which I guess you could say technically it is. But it does have this huge belly with this big upsweep right here. Let's pull out my little handy-dandy blade shape sheet here, blade shape guide. So that's your clip point right there, right? As you can see, I guess technically it is a clip point. This one's a little bit more aggressive, but it is technically a clip point. But it also reminds me of a dowel blade here. Check that out, guys. Wouldn't you say? With this little flat, section right here, then going into this nice big upswept belly with a clip point, just like that. I think it's a clip point dowel blade combo. What do they call that? I can't remember. There's a word that I can't think of that describes it when you put two blade styles together. Anyway, so like I said, M390 blade with the clip point. That was my point. Clip dowel combo. I got micarta scales here, titanium backspacer, pocket clip. Now this thing comes in a couple different flavors. You got your micarta versions. This is the natural micarta, obviously, and then it comes in like an OD green micarta. And with both of those have stonewash blades. And it also comes in a carbon fiber and a titanium version, which are a little bit more expensive. They range from $150, which is the micarta versions, up to about $185, which is the TI versions. The TI and the CF do have satin blades for people who prefer that. But like I said, they're a little bit more expensive. What else here? Did I say reversible pocket clip? It does have a reversible pocket clip. Thank you very much, guys, for keeping us lefties involved. So there you go. It is a flipper knife. And let's start off with that, man. The action on this thing is spectacular. It is so much fun to flip. It sort of instantly reminded me of the Akuchi by Spyderco, which is a very, very cool little slim gentleman's carry. But the action on it is very similar in the fact that it's pull down only, like what do they call that, light switch, where you can't push on the flipper tab to open it. You have to actuate it by pulling down, and it's very, very much like the flipper tab on the Akuchi. It sort of reminds me also of the Spyderco Smock, where you've got that sort of pull down actuator for the flipper tab, and it's really, really fun to flip. I'd say the action somewhere sits between the two. As far as action goes, it's got really, really good action, guys. Running on bearings, cage bearings inside of there. Just a lot of fun to flip. It does have one of those stop pin systems where the stop pin goes through the blade. Let me get it. Come on, focus. There we go. The stop pin goes through the blade, and it runs along. You can see that track in there. Runs along the track, and then finally sits open in those little grooves back there. So the pin doesn't have any internal stop pins inside the handle of the knife, which some people like, some people don't. But I think it works well for this little guy right here. But like I was saying, guys, this is the action. It's so much fun. I really dig the locking mechanism they use too. So they do call this a liner lock though, but your traditional liner locks, how they work, isn't it? Probably know if you're watching this, you don't need me to explain how a liner lock works. But as you can see, when you open the knife, the liner does, actuate and sit at the bottom of the tang, and the blade is then locked by the liner right there. Now, technically, this is a liner lock, but it acts a lot more like a compression lock. So, for those who don't know about compression locks are a lock that was, designed by Spyderco here. And what happens is the liner, instead of it being on the front of the handle, is at the back. And when you open the blade, let me see if I can get it to here we go. When you open the blade, what happens is you'll see it right here. Boom. You see that? The liner flips over and it sits up against the back of the tang. The liner then sits against this stop pin here and just creates a very, very solid lockup. Very, very sturdy, very tried and true locking mechanism by Spyderco. Now, as you can see here on this guy, you've got the flipper tab right here, and it's sort of flat along the back. It sort of comes up on the tang of the knife, sort of in this direction. And then when you open it, you'll see here, let me show you. You can see that right there. Let me see if I can do it again. As you can see, the liner actually flips across behind the flipper tab here. So it's not just resting against the tang of the blade here. It's actually runs up behind the flipper tab, creating a very nice solid blade. It's a very, very cool innovation. It's sort of a spin on the traditional liner lock, sort of mixed with a compression lock. So very, very cool lockup on it. I think it's a very strong lockup. Obviously, I don't do lockup tests. I'm not, I don't have that much time on my hands, but it seems like a very sturdy lock and a very, very good idea. I don't know if it was Jesper who came up. I'm assuming it is. Yeah. Now, I think Blade HQ, right? They're in Blade HQ knew what they had to do to make a good knife. That's what they do. They have the #1 knife channel on YouTube. I think it's #1. If not, it's close. They get feedback from knife guys constantly. They know what knife guys like, right? We like good action on our knives. We like blade centering. Nailed it. We like good materials, carbon fiber. Micarta carbon fiber, titanium. They did that. We like good blade steels. We just do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a blade steel snob by any means, but when I see M390, it gets me excited for some reason. Don't know why. But I see those 4 letters and not 4 letters. I guess it's 1 letter and 3 numbers. But once I see those, once I see that, I get excited. I like it. I like M390 a lot. I think it's probably, one of the best all-round blade steels out there. So, I think they nailed that. So, they had to get this knife right. They did. They used probably the premier knife designer in the world right now, right? I mean, you don't get any bigger than Jesper Voxnaes in as far as a knife designer is. Maybe Ken Onion, but let's face it, Jesper's a lot more prevalent these days. And, like I said, I mean, probably in the knife community, the most well-known knife designer. Now, people call his knife design simple. He posted something on Instagram the other day where he said people call my knife design simple, and which they really are. I mean, but there's a beauty in simplicity, and I hope that when I call this sort of a simple design, I mean it. When you can when you can execute a simple design well, it takes all the frills out of the knife making process, and you end up with a really really cool simple design, and that's what you get here. It's an effective knife. It does what it's supposed to do. It works really well. They use good materials, and they used an excellent knife designer, and they did something different. It's not your cookie cutter knife that looks the same as any other. I mean, I love these knives by Steel Will, but they're just sort of the same thing, as a lot of other knife makers are doing. This is something different, um, and I think they executed it really, really well. Now, look, a couple things with this. Now, first of all, it is a very thick blade. It's a very chunky, thick blade. For how small the knife is, I don't know if it was necessary to make the blade so thick. I think if you'd have made it thinner, though, I don't know what kind of action you would have got with this thing. But for me, if I see a thicker knife stock, I like to see a hollow grind. Now, people say that hollow grinds, and it's true, hollow grinds aren't as strong as a flat grind. Well, a knife this small, I don't know how much strength you need behind the edge of your blade. I mean, this you could use this knife for skinning animals and outdoorsy stuff like that, but really, for me, I'd love to see a nice hollow grind on this thing. I just think you get with how thick the blade is. I think you would have gotten more life out of the blade, and I think it would have been a little better dimension on the bevel as well, as far as sharpened edge goes. I did this. Like if anybody who watches my channel knows, the first thing I look at is the sharpened edge on a knife, and they did an okay job. It's not great. It's not terrible. But, they did an okay job. I check it. What I do is I'll look along the spine here, and just right at the edge where the tip is right here, where the bevels come together, I look just to see how even they are, and they did an okay job. This side here is a little bit bigger than the other side, but, I'm really just nitpicking on that. I think that could have been remedied with a little bit more of a thinner edge, a little bit thinner bevel behind the edge with a nice hollow grind, but, I don't know. People kick back on hollow grinds for some reason. That's why Chris Reeve Knives had to come out with the Nkosi, because people didn't like their shallow grinds that they did on their Sebenzas, because they said they weren't sturdy enough. So, either way, look, I really am just nitpicking here. I think the knife came razor sharp. It's M390. I don't know honestly how much people sharpen their knives to where they're getting back too far, but honestly, I think my point was, with a blade this thick, I honestly think a hollow grind would have suited the blade much better. And I'm sort of torn about this blade shape. I'm not totally in love with it, and I'll tell you why. The ergos on this thing are fantastic, right? They did really, really well with the ergos on it. Even though you've got that finger choil right there, the ergonomics of the blade are really, really good. Like, your hand sort of falls in there, your FU finger goes right into that choil, and then you've got this other choil up here, which is it's a very neutral choil, but I guess technically it is still considered a choil. But what you are able to get with this small 6-inch knife is a 6.5-inch knife, is a full 4-finger grip with your thumb up on the blade there. So you get a very, very sturdy grip with a very semi-neutral handle, and a lot of that is to do with the shape of this handle. It's a lot easier to see when you close the blade. You can see how it's sort of thin at the top, and then it kicks out wider at the bottom here. And what that does is, when it's in your hand, your finger sort of falls right into that spot there. You've got nice jimping on the bottom, nice jimping on the top, great jimping. They did a really good job of the jimping on this knife, and your hand has this fatter section at the bottom here to grip onto, and it's a very, very secure knife. Now, why I brought this up is that to get to the tip of this knife, you really, because of the belly on this thing, you really have to tip your hand down to do these cuts, which is fine. You can use it like this, to do it. But I would have liked to seen maybe a little bit more of a sheep's footy blade on this thing. I think a nice Jesper Voxnaes sheep's foot blade would have fit this knife a little better, and maybe that's coming down the pipeline. I have no idea, but you know, I like it because of how different it is. I like that they took a chance and did something different on this design. But for a knife this small, I can't imagine people are out there skinning animals would need that sort of big belly on it. I would have liked to seen something where the tip was a little easier to get to. But like I said, I'm just nitpicking here. I don't design knives. I just buy them and then talk about them on YouTube. Um, but yeah, I mean, those are really my two biggest nitpicks with this thing. The micarta on it's good. It's a good micarta. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this. This knife is made by Voxnaes, which is a knife maker out of Italy, and they do an okay job. I've only handled a couple Fox knives before, and they do an okay job. The Biblio, sorry, the giant mouse knives are made by a company called Viper, and I just think that their quality out of their production lines is so much better. If you can see the difference in the micarta between these two. I mean, the micarta on the Biblio is just so much more attractive, but it also feels a lot better in hand. This sort of feels a little bit slick. Not terrible. I've seen a lot crappier micarta out there, but still, I would have liked to seen a little bit more like the Biblio micarta. But like I said, that's sort of nitpicking. I mean, overall, like I said, I think Blade HQ really nailed it. I think people are really happy with this knife. I've seen a couple complaints people had about it. It had to do with somebody I saw got one and the bearing was flipped backwards in it and it didn't lock up when it opened, but that was an easy fix and now they love it. So from what I've seen a lot of very positive feedback and for very good reason. I think Blade HQ for their first knife did a good job, and Jesper did a nice Jesper Voxnaes, something different for you. And I think that they did a great job here overall, and I definitely recommend this knife to people. The last thing I would like to talk about is the price on this thing. Right at about $150. Okay, I get it, right? It's an Italian-made knife from a good knife maker. You've got an excellent knife designer in Jesper Voxnaes and a great company behind it. Premium materials, M390 micarta, CF, titanium, what have you. I really would have liked to see this knife maybe more down in the $100 to $120 price range. I think that fits this knife a lot better. I do see M390 blades down in that price range. Let me show you one here. That's one of my favorite all-time knives, if I can find it. This is the Viper Novice. Now, I got this on Lamnia for $110, right? And it's the same sort of materials. You've got M390 with a micarta handle. I think you can get these for about $130 on some sites. I got this for $110, but I think that would have been a great price for this knife, about $110, $150. It's not terrible, not going to break the budget. It's not crazy like James brand knives, but still I would have liked to have seen that price a little bit lower. But then again, I don't know what goes into, bringing knives in from Italy and the cost associated with that kind of thing, the production of these knives. So maybe it's spot on. Maybe it's right where it needs to be. But as somebody who buys a lot of knives, I would like to, maybe see that knife just a little bit less expensive. But, those are my gripes with it, guys. But overall, man, I think that they really just nailed it. The flipper action on this thing is fun. The lockup on it's really cool innovation. Good materials. You've got a reversible pocket clip, which thank God, right? And yeah, I just, for what it is, I think it's just a really fun, really cool little knife, and I definitely recommend it to people. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please like and subscribe. Only if you want to, though. You don't have to, but I would appreciate it. Like I said, go over to my Instagram. I will be doing that giveaway this week. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. And one lucky person will walk away. I'm going to be giving away a couple knives. You're going to be getting all types of swag from all types of really cool people around the knife community. And yeah, just hope that you guys get over there and, one of you guys gets to win. I would much rather prefer somebody who watches my channel to win than just some random person on Instagram. So please go over there and enter. I will have it up by Thursday at the latest. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. And thank you so much again for spending some time with me.